All right, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Tuesday, March 6th. S&P finished up 25 basis points. The Q's a little bit better than that, up 40 basis points. And look at IWM, small caps up 1.1%. Really nice outperformance there today. I have up in front of you just a chart of Autodesk. Autodesk, we saw some calls about I think it was the beginning of last week, I want to say, from memory. But it's pretty crazy. I thought they had decent numbers, but not knock the ball out of the park numbers. And you could see how much they're up. I think they had a better than expected. Not as bad of a loss as they were expecting, and better revenues. So really nice play. We played this in for earnings. We did I did a small earnings trade on Autodesk as well as Ross Stores, and Ross Stores looks like they've had pretty a bit better consistency of earnings, but nevertheless they're down a little bit after the hours, not much, and Autodesk was implying a 7.8% move. What I did was I sold premium. I sold a put spread and collected a little bit of premium because the implied volatility was so high. So looks like that's looking good. Ross Stores. We'll just take a quick look at this. I guess it really ramped into the close. And actually, it's fighting back here, so that earnings trade might be fine for this one. I also sold the put spread going out to March. They have no weeklies in this one. So just to kind of rehash the price action for the day, and we'll talk about really where the strength has been in the market, where we profited from today's price action, but really a choppy day in the S&P 500. There really wasn't much going on. You could see that we caught a little bit of momentum here midday on, I think, some headlines out, but you could see the really a nice use of the value areas. Again, these value areas are so good for support and resistance. It's just really, whenever you start to see this, like on the 5-minute bar, where you see all these long tails, it just means that we've got kind of a choppy day on our hands, which is fine. The option activity has really been giving us some good signals. So I think we just don't need, it's a plus when the market rallies and you're long, but even when the market just kind of goes flat or goes up a little bit, it ends up usually being if we're picking stocks correctly, it ends up being a pretty good day, which it was for me, and it's been this week. So that's kind of where we are. I'll just move out to the daily chart, just so we can see what the S&P looks like. It's just a hair under the 50-day moving average, kind of slowed down a little bit. So now we've got three green bars in a row. We're above this area that I had talked about yesterday. I was making a joke between how the difference between the S&P S&P futures, the chart, and SPY, but nevertheless it looks like they're both over the point that I was looking at yesterday. And Thinkorswim gets really slow for me at the end of the day. There we go. So we're just a little bit above here. We'll see what tomorrow holds. And what I wanted to look at is the Iwm chart. We'll wait for that to come up here for a second. You can see that's now above the top of value for March. So small caps leading is a good sign, in my opinion. Now above 154.35, that top of value. So that's pretty strong. We'll see if we can get above this area, which was the bottom of value for February, where we stalled out last time. But some really nice strength there. And if you look, keep in mind in small caps, financials are the biggest weight in the small cap, in the Russell 2000. Take a look at what regional banks are doing here. 52-week high, quietly made a 52-week high. Very nice, up 1.4%. So I'll get to today's option activity, which we just continue to see a lot of option activity in the semi space and in the small tech space, in the FANG space. It's been pretty consistent here. Semis also made a new 52-week high today. 109.67 is the high print, and just all kinds of call buying in this space. Intel 52-week high today, although it did finish decently off the highs for the day. Micron has just been the same story, you know, gapped up today, kind of a toppy looking candle for today, so maybe a place to take some more profits. I actually did not take any more profits today. I've been taking profits the last few days, not every day, but I did not see how that looked, but I probably would have taken another target in Micron with that gap up. Sometimes that gap up after a big move can sometimes signal a pause after that. So my mistake. I should have done that today, but that's okay. And then a couple other names. You know, maybe it's by chance. You know, there's a headline right around the close that this Qualcomm Broadcom deal doesn't look like it's headed in the right direction. So, you know, possibly Broadcom might be looking at some other names. I don't know. That's maybe why we saw a ton of ON Semiconductor calls today. What else do we see? We saw Cree calls today. You know, so I mean, it's just crazy with these semi names. Big move up for that one. It's you know the thing is, it's funny because there's so many that are exhibiting strength. Applied Materials also saw big call buying again today, and this one looks like it's ready to go. Remember, we saw all this call buying into here, I believe. And then it's been starting to heat up again the last couple days. So, you know, I'm almost tired of talking about them at this point, but they just continue. If you go to my list for the day, just a lot of sharp, aggressive call buying in this group. You know, I almost want to turn away and look at some other names, but you know, how can you when they just keep coming after? Intel, I would say, was probably the most frequent one that we've seen in the last couple days. They've really gone after that one. So what else did we see besides this group? I mean, it's been continuation. Some names that we actually just haven't seen that much call buying. We actually did see some call buying in NTNX, but damn, you know, we really you know, hit it with this one. You know, I just kind of figured with this move in Vive last week and obviously into this week, just noticing what some of these smaller either cloud or application software or enterprise software names are doing after earnings when they report really well. They've got this big move. So I went long NTNX. I actually rolled calls, you know, rolled calls to a further out strike just to make sure I was, you know, taking profits and taking some money off the table and just basically playing with the profits. But look at this thing go. And then also Splunk. Splunk is another one that's marching higher after earnings too. Not quite as aggressive as those two other names, but man, it's been very impressive. This space has just been absolutely impressive. And then don't forget about Salesforce, which they keep buying calls into since before they reported earnings and then after they reported earnings. So geez, these things are just moving. And then, going back to Autodesk, it was kind of compelled me to play along in this space because just the momentum has been so good. So I can't tell you when this momentum is going to go away in this space, but for now, it's kind of been the same drill. Just keep taking trades, participating, and then rolling. Don't take all the. For me, it hasn't been. Don't take all the exposure off the table. Take profits, but just roll out. Keep rolling out and up. And that's really been helping me kind of stay in the game and not, instead of just taking trades off just because they made money and trying to predict when the trend is over. So I've really learned that in option trading, over the years to kind of keep those trades that are working, keep them on. But if you feel like you have to touch the trades, take off the current strike and roll out and up. That's what we see institutions do all the time. So that's been really nice, adhering to that strategy. So what else do we see? A couple other, just kind of to talk about some of my trades, which I don't do on every video, but Constellation Brands, if you've been watching these videos, I talked about this name a couple times now. Real nice winner. Oh, by the way, the one thing that I wanted to say with this is, considering the where the volatility has been the last couple of weeks, I really haven't been taking that many really outsized trades, and just some of the smaller trades that I've been taking, in the NTNX and Splunk and STZ, they've really worked well. I mean, I'm really grabbing big profits, like 30-40% profits. A couple names of doubles here and there. So here's you could see what we've done. what I've done for today. I have it, besides the earnings channel. By the way, all Tribeca Trade Group members get to see this stuff real time. In the trades channel, we went long. We went long BABA yesterday. A bunch of members went long BABA. I just want to look at this chart. I took that trade off in the beginning of the day. And I think BABA looks pretty good. I wanted to see where it closed. I actually screwed up here talking about rolling out. I forgot to roll out my trade in BABA. I was waiting to see where it closed, but I think I got wrapped up with a couple of earnings trades. So tomorrow I would like to put a BABA trade back on. Again, what we did yesterday at the end of the day, and just kind of realized that a lot of the tech momentum names have been running, and you start to look for names that just for whatever reason just haven't been participating. So BABA was up, quietly up 3% today. And gapped up and now back above the 50-day moving average. So I think a name definitely to watch going in tomorrow, because it may have a lot more upside to go, considering, again, what the group is doing. So I'll look to reestablish that position tomorrow. Forgot about that. I do make mistakes from time to time. I did take a trade in CVX today. I'll go over that in just a second. We talked about Wyndham yesterday. I took some of that trade off today. So, where there's momentum, nice move from where it was yesterday, up not even that big. I took that target right in the beginning of the day. A couple other trades to kind of mention. We talked about NTNX. Western Digital, that was a trade that I put on in the middle of February when we saw a decent sized call buyer. Look at this thing go too. Another name that popped today. So again, just a lot of strength, a lot of big green bars in select names in this space. I feel like I could keep talking about this space, but there were some other areas that outperformed. Believe it or not, the home builders actually were I believe the best performing sector on the day. ITB, that's your ITB ETF. And let's see if XHB, which broke the 200-day moving average, actually reclaimed it today. So that's a good sign. When you start to see things come back, again, in my weekend video, I was talking about how things were looking fairly weak. Some particular, other than tech, there was a lot of sectors that looked particularly weak. Well, a lot of them have come back. And again, that checks the box for what I wanted to see. Industrials had a big day yesterday, just up a little bit today. But still, at least coming back from that, breakdown area. And, that's perfect. On a day-to-day basis, to see the progress being made like this, I think is really, really good. All right. So I wanted to talk about CVX. Let me bring up a chart of oil, which the API report is probably out already. I did not see what it was. But take a look at oil, right? I mean, just to kind of rehash this for a minute, from the February sell-off, we went all the way down. We were at 60, 65, 66 bucks in oil. We went all the way down to 58, right? And since then, oil has reclaimed about 50% of that, of this down move, right, of this downswing. What's interesting is the energy equities have not reclaimed them at all. So XLE, which is the energy ETF, Chevron and Exxon make up almost 30% of this ETF, and it went down from 78 to 67 and has done nothing since. So you would think, considering oil has bounced back, not all the way, but about half the way, it seems like these are a little bit undervalued. So, I really don't, I'm not looking to take any huge energy positions, but participate in a couple of them. So CVX, which kind of ran out of steam, they had their analyst day today. So they got a little bit of a bounce, but it got faded today. But nevertheless, there was about 9,500 of these April 120 calls that went up. They actually had 2 lots of them. I guess they made a mistake and they canceled one. But April 120s, I don't really want, as a swing trader for options, don't really want any more April exposure, so I went out to the May calls just to give it plenty of time. And what I'm looking for is, kind of what oil has done for this to maybe retrace about 50% of the slide and maybe get back up to 121, 122. A couple other names, so that's it. I mean, I can go through, Mosaic saw some calls as well. PPL saw some calls. Win, which continues to see call buying. Trip has now seen calls a couple times, both before Priceline reported and afterwards. A couple other names that I wanted to go over. Greek, the Greece ETF. Take a look at this. This is a pretty nice setup, I think. We'll wait for this to come up here on Bloomberg. Right at the 200-day moving average. So what better of a time to take a shot in the Greece ETF? Again, has went all the way from 1150 down to $10. So rough math there is about a 15% move down, and now we're seeing call buyers come in. We saw a call spread go up, just a dollar-wide call spread go up yesterday, and there was some calls going up today. So again, that's half of what option activity, following option activity is, or watching option activity is just looking for trade ideas. And I saw the calls go up earlier in the day, and this thing's right at the 200-day moving average. Again, in very easy trade. And you don't even, in my opinion, don't even need to necessarily mess around with the options. It's a $10 stock. And then just set your stop maybe a little bit below the 200-day moving average. If it breaks, get out for a small loss. But let's see if it wants to bounce here on the 200-day moving average after a 15% move to the downside. Great looking setup, in my opinion. Another setup that, another name that really don't see a lot of call buying in today, but EW, Edwards Life Sciences, to me looks. I would put this on the breakout alert for the day. Just actually did take out the highs from about a week ago. Take a look at this name. They're just buying short-term calls. They just bought March calls, so maybe they're looking for this name to punch out further. So keep that name on your radar. I went over Splunk and NTNX, went over KRE. HDP, another name that's in this software space. Take a look at this. Big day today, up 6%, up a buck. Again, a very low price stock, but take a look at what this did at the 200-day moving average. So yeah, it's a little bit late. I mean, it had a really big day to get above that 50-day moving average, but go ahead and let that 50-day moving average now be your stop. It's been a very strong looking chart. Big dip just like everything else, but not back to the 52-week highs yet. That's Hortonworks. All right. So that's it for today's recap. Again, a great looking day. All around, even though the overall averages, Qs were up about 40 basis points. And again, the small caps really had a nice performance. But just as long as we don't have that big volatility to the downside, really sets up nice for both day trading and adding a little bit of risk here and there. Thanks for watching the video and have a great night.